We had a deal that we were doing, and I brought in a guy last minute. It was a, oh man, expensive lessons, man. We needed somebody to come and quarterback the deal, one of the deals we had. Uh, and this guy, when I got on the phone with him, he was, he sold it to me. His background, he had a really strong background or whatever, but his personality is exactly what I look for when working with people. I have a saying. I don't work with resume. It doesn't matter what your resume look like. It could be all polished. You can be, have the best, greatest resume. If your personality isn't there, and I just cannot connect with you on that business level, and I don't feel you understand what it is I'm trying to accomplish, I'm not going to work with you. One guy, I brought this guy on, seemed charming and all this, very professional. Started working together, and in about, I think, a month and a half, 2 months, he actually showed his true side. Was very disrespectful with the seller. First of all, he was like, hey, Ansi, can I get contact with to the seller directly? There are some things that I want to request, and given the time frame that we were in, we don't have a lot of time to close this deal. I'm gonna need a little bit of autonomy, right? I need access to the team. I need access to these people So I'm like, all right, cool, cool, cool. Go ahead. Worst mistake I ever made. One of them, right? So it turns out he was extremely rude, belligerent with the seller, kind of saying, hey, I am the only investor. This deal doesn't get done without me. We had 3 years of financial in every aspect from the seller, and he was requesting additional financial. Like, he was asking for 6 years financials, which that's not typically how things are done when you're looking at a business. You really look at 3 years. Obviously, there are some advantages to looking at beyond that 3 year mark, going further back 4, 5, 6 years, because no business that starts out, a certain way stays the same. And you can actually kind of get a better sense of the growth, but not typically, because a lot of times these businesses probably got a loan to start up. So in the beginning, cash flows and everything else is very, very minimal. And then you could see the progression in the revenues of the business, the performance of it, right? So going back that far, it doesn't tell you anything, because that's the majority of the life cycle of a startup or business, anything like that. It's going to be, in a negative, and then it increases. So going beyond 3 years really didn't make sense, but he was requesting for 3 years financials. I had a 3 hour drive to meet with the seller, and it is the day that we're finalizing contracts. They're signing over all of their contracts over to us. And this is crazy, because we drove 3 hours, my partner and I, only for the seller. The second I sat down, she said, who is this gentleman? I said, oh, that's our M&A director. He's leading the acquisition. Oh, I didn't like his tone. She actually printed out the email that he sent her, and exactly what he said word for word. And they had a conversation. And she was like, the seller was kind of saying something like, I don't understand why you need all of this. We have this. Mind you, we were beyond due diligence, by the way. So all of the red flags that were potentially there, it was not there. We already done our homework. So this guy was actually giving in the seller's mind that we're starting due diligence over again, which took us about 2, 3 months, something like that. I don't know. It gave the seller a bad impression. It also gave the seller the impression that I, as the leader, did not know what I was doing, or really know what's going on with my people, my team, people who are under me. So it just began, the way it started was it was going south. She asked, who is this gentleman and what's his position? I explained it. She pulled out the email and showed it to me. I'm like, oh my God. And she told me the conversation they had verbally and what this guy was saying. And I think at one point she said, this guy was like, no, you listen to me. I was like, whew, okay. Needless to say, we lost that deal, right? An incredible mistake. Why am I telling you this? Well, it's because I did not know how to judge the individual's, character. I fell for the charm. Robert Greene talks about this in his books. He's one of my favorite authors, right? In the book, The Laws of Human Nature, that book, right? It talks about this. And I wish I would have read that book beforehand. I would have kind of learn to spot these things. But you have to be careful when you're looking at working with people, and to be able to not just fall for the fancy resume and the personality that they put up front, but find out who they really are. Because in business, there's sharks here. It's a cutthroat world. Nobody really cares about you. It's they're working to their advantage, and how can they get ahead, right? So you want to be careful when you're judging people, when you're talking about someone who's going to be on your team long term, and you want to make sure that you're not moving too quickly when you're bringing these people on, because you want to give yourself time to be able to spot certain things, because the person's character will reveal itself one way or another, right? I like looking at people in their eyes, because the eye doesn't lie. You know what I mean? I can tell your level of enthusiasm from looking in your eyes, or if you really don't give a shit. I can tell, right? You know how like people smile at you, but it's kind of, their eyes are dead, which is creepy, by the way. But yeah, man, you have to learn to spot these cues and be able to read people a lot better in business, which those are one of the things that over the years I've learned to do. You know what I mean? But it's extremely difficult when you're beginning and you don't have this experience, But just make sure when you're hiring people, right, you're not falling for the bells and whistles, if you will, that they have on their resume. And then a lot of times you'll get on the phone with these guys and they'll just try to sell you so hard, right? Like, I've worked with this. I sit on JP Morgan's board. I know this person. I know that person. I could do this. I could do that. I kind of pay attention to the people who make too many promises too quickly. Those tend to be the people who are just trying to, get a paycheck and get moving. The people who are more genuine when it comes to that, this is how it goes. They work with you a month and a half, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And then afterwards, if you're struggling in a certain area, let's say capital raising, they would come in and say, hey, by the way, I soft pitched this to a buddy of mine. He just had a successful exit. He's the owner of XYZ company, or this sports team, okay. But anyways, they're going to say something like, I kind of soft pitched it to him and he's interested. It wasn't a full on pitch, but this is somebody I really respect, and he's definitely a capital player. I'm thinking about seeing if he's interested in coming in. Those are people I tend to trust a little bit more, because they didn't just come out and say, hey, look, I know this guy, I know that guy, I know this person, I know that person, right? I can introduce you to this person. That 90% of the time they don't do it when they kind of sell themselves like that in the beginning, right? So you just want to be careful of how to pick. Those are just part of the strategies that I use on picking great candidates. And this is not a industry specific. This is just people learning how to read people and deal with people, right? You're going to have those, wolves in sheep's clothing. Can't help that, right? Experience is the best teacher. But that being said, that's just my way of, a story I wanted to share with you of how I learned to pick people better and one of my bad experiences. So you want to just have a feel for who they are and just watch out for people who try to sell themselves a little bit too quickly. You know what I mean? You want the person who's kind of giving you a little bit of critique on, some of the ways that this can fail, even though they are still on board with you. But they also have to provide solution as well, not just critique, right? They have to give solution. You know what I mean? So guys, that was the video today of how to pick the best candidate when you're deciding to recruit your M&A deal team. That being said, catch me on the next video. We're going to talk about, what to look for in a great industry expert. But as always, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber, and help us reach 1,000 subscribers, right? By the way, if you want to get what I just described summarized to you in a PDF format, just go to ibuniversity.org/membership. Catch you later, guys.